Okay, it's an American muscle boat, so let's give it some American muscle. We've got two 4.5 litre, 250 horsepower Mercruisers. These are the Seacore, so they've got optimization for saltwater conditions and an extended warranty, I might add. But just going to get the boat up and moving. So straight through 3,300, 3,500. I have the active trim engaged. I've got a boat on starboard, a ferry up front, otherwise reasonably calm conditions. Just going to sit the boat on 3,400 revs there. Let's go up to 3.5, get in front of this guy here. And we've got it sitting on a fuel flow of 44 litres a side, giving me a speed return of 28 knots. Feels sporty. This is a boat for people who like muscle boats. This is a boat for people who imagine what a traditional American sports boat is all about. If you're looking for that experience, that's what you get on this 298 SS. And that's essentially what I'm feeling right now. We've got a really pointy bow, cut through the waves. I'm just passing some waves right now, going through them at 28 knots. I'm just going to maintain this sort of speed as we go, because I'm going to open it up when we get to the flat water, which will just be around the corner just here. So this is just a mixture of boat wash at the moment, and then we'll be going into some ocean swell in a short amount of time. So still sitting on 3,000, now it's sitting at 3,700 revs actually. A little bit of debris in the water, let's avoid that. Giving me a speed return of 30 knots now. That's kind of comfortable. I'm sitting on the flip up bolster. I gotta say, I think a lot of you would enjoy this position. If you want to flip it down, that's quite easy. And yeah, just relaxing at that position. I've got wind vortices here. And then if I flip the bolster up, I'm actually, from this seated position, I'm still protected from the wind. So with the wraparound glass like this, you're going to be fine, even if it's slightly cooler days, so to speak. You're not going to have an issue. The throttle, it's at a sensible place. It's the new Mercury throttle, so it's got a much bigger body, and I find you can probably rest your hand, and this is a good time to demonstrate this as I come into the exposed part of the harbour with some of these waves. Rather than having your hand on the throttle like this, with no contact with the throttle base, rest your palm like that and then operate the throttle with your fingers, because that allows you to have much better throttle control, as I am now. I'll just increase speed to 3,900 revs, and as I'm going through some of these waves, I can feel the active trim doing its thing. I can feel the wave parting these waves, but I've got a little bit of vertical acceleration with the bow, as you would expect, and I'm in full control because my hand is not moving relative to the throttles themselves. So it's just a much better way to drive a boat through bumpy water. So I'm going to come around the rocks here. Now we're getting a little bit of small rollers, just half a metre, if that. We're going across us from starboard to port these waves, and we have a little bit of boat chop and some bounce back from these rocks. So I've got waves coming from both directions, coming through some bigger ones here now. Just came off the power there at 27 knots. I'm going to go wide of some fishermen just at anchor, or drifting they are actually. And then we're going to make our way into the calmer water where we can see how this boat behaves. Now I've got waves on my starboard side, but I'm about to start going down swell. So here I'm turning down swell, maintaining a speed of 28 knots. The boat's been completely dry. I've got Matt on the back seat. You dry there, Matt? Thumbs up, he's still dry. So we're parting these waves, and the cutting action of this bow is sending the wash out midships. It doesn't appear to be throwing any of it up on board, and we're still doing that at a 27 knot average speed. Fuel flow ranging from 40 litres to 45 in some of the bursts, and that is per motor. Okay, 3,600 revs, give it a little bit more power. Good amount of shade under this T-top, or bimini I should say, not T-top. I think I would leave this up. It's obviously retractable, but on a January day like it is today, where the sun's got a bit of bite, it's kind of sensible, and I can see no movement. So even on the really windy days, that appears to be well constructed, and it's not going to flap around and be annoying like some biminis can be when they're too loose. So just coming in at 3,900 revs, bump it up to 4,000, approaching some flatter water. I'm now seeing 57 litres a side. I've got half a tank of fuel on board, about 350 litre total capacity, and this boat's just over 3 tonnes. Just over 3 tonnes. So now let's start to open it up. I'm opening it up to 34 knots, 70 litres a side. I'm not in flat water. I'm not in flat water. I feel like the active trim might want to be catching up with me here. I feel like I could trim this a little bit faster than the computer can, but let's just back it off. So I'm just hitting 33, 34, and I've got 1 water trim tabs down. So now that I'm in moderately flat but not flat water, I'm just going to raise those trim tabs, reduce my drag. I've still got the active trim on. I'm just going to carry that corner around at 33 knots. Heel angle, it's quite predictable. It's not overly aggressive, although I'm not doing a full lock turn because I'm in waves. You know, this is just what you would expect from an American muscle boat. Excitement, feedback, vibrations, sound. It's got all of that. And then you wrap it up in an unbelievably sexy package. I think to do this boat justice, we need to get into some flatter water and really open it up. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to pop around the corner and show you guys what wide open throttle looks and feels like in completely flat water. But through the chop, absolutely 27 to 30 knots. Fuel flows ranging from 40 to 45 per side, and then at wide open throttle, we got well over 35 knots, but I couldn't do the boat justice because I had quite a few waves there. So I'm gonna go find some flatter water and we'll show you what it's like. Okay, we've come up here to some flat water to give this boat a proper test. Can you see me there? Yes, you can. What I'm gonna do, just gonna get the boat on the plane, I'm gonna fang it, go straight into a turn, and then open it up on the flat, on the straight, and see what we can get out of this boat. So let's get it on the plane. Okay, entering a turn. I've deactivated the active trim for the purpose of this test, and I'm just going to feel the boat in the flat water. I'm just coming through there at 3,500 revs and 27 knots, and now I'm going to increase the power. All right, trim tabs are all the way up, legs coming up, 31 knots, 33 knots, 34 knots, 4,400 revs, 4,500 revs, give it another little trim up, 37 knots, 38 knots. This is where a boat like this is happy. Oh, this is fun. This is enjoyable. I'm getting so much feedback right now. The vibrations of the motor, the boat feels, it looks fast, it feels fast, it is fast. This is what you do on a boat like this. I'm now hitting 40 knots. Come on, let's give it a bit more. Slight trim up. I can feel the steering lighten up a little bit. 4,800 revs. She loves it. I think I saw about 41 knots as my top speed there. So what I'm going to do is just slow down. No trim tab, manual trimming. Okay, now let's do this test again, but this time we'll engage the active trim. Okay, so active trim has been engaged. Trim tabs are still in the retracted position. Let's go. Full throttle, 22 knots, 24 knots, 25 knots. Okay, hitting 31 knots. The engines are working hard. The bow feels a little bit further down now. 35 knots. Trim tabs are up. The bow is taking a little bit too long to respond. So this is the answer, guys. If you are in bumpy water, use the active trim because it's going to keep the boat stable, controlled and comfortable through the waves. I've got a couple of my own waves just here that I'm beating my way through. But at full revs and no trim, I'm getting a max speed of 35 knots and 4,300 revs using that active trim. So that's the answer to how you should operate a boat like this. I'm going to come off the throttle, I'm going to deactivate the active trim, and let's just keep going around. Now I've deactivated it, I'm going to hook it around, and just to show you what's possible. Oh, that's fun. 31 knots. Okay, so now as I come out of this turn at 31 knots, I'm coming up on the trim manually, 4,000 revs, 35 knots and climbing. Listen to those motors, 37 knots, 38 knots, full throttle now, 39 knots, more trim. I'm at about half trim setting now. The bow's bouncing through some of these waves. I can just drop the nose a little bit manually to settle that if I need to, raise it again as it comes out through these next set of waves, and I'm back up to that close to 40 knots. I'm over 40 knots, 40 and a half knots right now. Let's just give it a little bit more trim. Got a little bit of wind on my port bow and some more waves here. I'll settle it down with some trim down, come back on the trim up, 39, 40 knots, heaps of fun. Hooking it into a turn, hard turn, stay on the power, dropping the nose. Oh yeah, feel the grip there. That is great fun. Let's just do some S-turns while we're at it. This is what it's all about, guys. This is what you dream of on a Friday afternoon at knockoff time. It's doing this. Wind in your hair, mates on the back of the boat. That sound of your tinny just cracking when you open it, and someone jumping in the water. That's what it's all about. That's what this boat gives to you. We've just learned a thing or two. This technology is fantastic. It's going to save you time and stress factor when you're in a busy, choppy Sydney Harbour quite scenario, which a lot of you are going to be. As soon as you get on the flat stuff and you're really opening it up to do what you should do on a boat like this, stick it over into manual, have your laugh, have a good time. I suspect if you're attracted to a boat like this, you probably like things like motorbikes and fast cars too. So yeah, that's what this is going to give to you. And you know, if that's what you're chasing in life, if it's that sort of adrenaline, this Monterey 298 SS, it's absolutely going to give you that. So if you're interested in a detailed walkthrough, follow this link coming up on the screen right now.